Hello, welcome back to the Boardgames4K YouTube channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings, and we generally talk a lot of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general. And in this video, we're going to be talking about an old game that's just sort of recently had a reprint. We're going to be talking about a sort of dexterity climbing sort of game called The Climbers, funny old thing. And in this game, what you'll be doing is you'll be trying to get your climber as high up the structure as possible before the other players do the same thing and win the game. And in this video, we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules. We'll be telling you what we do like, what we don't like, and then we will come back and we'll tell you whether or not The Climbers is still worth playing today and in the future. So if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you after this. Boardgames4K. So, The Climbers. How'd you play this game? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to set the game up, and you've got these two neutral coloured blocks that are bigger than all the others in the box. So what you do, you take these two blocks out and put them together, and then you'll randomly place all the rest of the blocks around these two blocks, and you'll notice that all of these blocks have got different colours on. So there's one neutral colour, and then you've got one colour for each of the other player colours that are in the game. You also notice that each block has got a different height. So you'll have the number 1 height, you'll have the number 2 height, and you'll have the number 3 height and number 4 height, right? So this refers to how many steps your builder can move up in each round. So what you'll do, you'll place the builder next to the smallest block, and that's a size 1 block, and they can just climb up there normally, right? To climb up any further, they'll need a bit of assistance. So you'll have a small ladder and you'll have a big ladder, and that will allow you to climb up a certain number of spaces. But what you need to consider is you can only climb a neutral or the same colour as your climber, right? So on your turn, you can move your climber up and or move and rotate a block, right? So for instance, you can move your climber up one, then take a block from anywhere else from the structure that hasn't got anything sitting on top of it, and then you can rotate it and place it somewhere else, or you can do that and then move. And once you've done that, everybody else will move. And in the game, you'll look at the blocks, and there'll be an imaginary grid on each block that corresponds to how many spaces there are for climbers. So the small blocks will have a grid of 4, and the larger blocks will have larger grids, right? So when you're placing the blocks out, you can have them overhanging slightly so that only half the block is touching another block, but you can't have spaces underneath the blocks when you place them out, right? So also in the game, you'll have a blocking disc. When you've moved your pawn or moved a block, then you can place a blocking disc on any unoccupied space, so that will stop other players from going there on their turn. So once you've had your go, then everybody else will get to move their climber up. You can never move down, and then play will go to the next player, and so on and so forth. You'll keep doing this until everybody's passed, and then the player with the climber in the highest position will win the game. And if there's a tie, then the player that got to the highest position first will win the game of The Climbers. Right, so what do we like about The Climbers? So the first thing that we really like about The Climbers is the fact it's made out of wood. They could have taken a cheap option on this one, and they could have made it out of plastic, a bit like, what do you call it? See, a bit like the junk art game. They made that out of wood and then turn it into plastic and flick them up as a wooden version first of all, and then turn it into plastic. So we really, really like the fact that the pieces are solid, they're very colourful, and they're absolutely fantastic quality. So the second thing that we really like about The Climbers is it's an excellent 3-dimensional puzzle. And it's not just a case that you have to watch what you're doing when you put your climbers going up. You have to watch what other players are doing as well. So when you're moving a block, you have to make sure that you're not letting anyone else in, because you've got to remember, it's another chance to move the climber up when your go is over. So you've got to be very mindful about not letting those sneaky little sods climb in through the gaps that you've left them. So the third thing that we really like about it is the extra little bits and bobs available in this game. So you've got 2 ladders, one large one, one small one, and you've got a blocking disc. And the fact that these are one-time use only is an absolutely fantastic thing, because as you're progressing up the structure, the amount of pieces that are available to you diminishes, and the size of the pieces gets smaller, because it's very, very difficult to move the larger pieces and place them on top of the structure without them hanging off, right? So you've got to be very careful not to use these too quickly, but then you've got to be careful not to leave it too late, and that's a really, really nice choice. So the final thing that we really like about The Climbers is the way that they have put a set pattern onto the blocks, so you don't have to pick them up and tell where they are. It's a bit like dice, you know, that the two opposite sides always equal 7, so you can tell exactly what's on the other side. So, you know, I can't remember what the combination of things are, but if you've got purple on one side, then you're going to have green on the other, right? So that's an easy way of ascertaining what's on the other side of a block without having to pick it up and try and forget where it came from. So what don't we like about the climbers? So the first thing that we don't like about it is the rule book is complete and utter garbage, right? So there's too many unanswered questions. We looked on Boardgame Geek, and even so, there's still all these questions that go unanswered. We can't find answers for. Like one of them, which is probably the second point that we don't like about it, is what happens if the structure collapses? There's nothing in the rule book to say what happens. Do you rebuild it? Is the game over? Is the person who touched it last responsible for its collapse? What happens if it collapses on its own? There's all these little questions aren't answered in the rule book, and it's almost like a really poor translation. I know the rule book's not as bad as the first printing of this game, but it's still pretty shoddy, and it probably could do with a proper English rewrite. So the next thing that we don't like about it, probably the third thing, because we've already said about two things in one thing, right? So the third thing is it's very difficult to see when you're sitting down to see what's on the other side of the structure, right? So you're going to have to go out and get yourself a lazy Susan in order to get the most out of this game, and that just adds more cost to the game, unless you've already got one, of course, in which case you should use it, right? But if you're not going to do that, you're going to have to play this standing up, and you're going to be constantly going round and round the table going, oh, excuse me, could you just move out of the way, please? And if you're in a small space, it's going to be a real pain in the neck trying to get round the other side of the blocks to see what's going on. So there is that. So to summarise, is the Climbers still worth playing today and in the future? So we're going to say yes, we like the Climbers. We love games that are made out of wood, so this falls neatly into that category there. It's a colourful game. It's a really, really nice standout puzzle that gets your mind working, but it's not too heavy as to sort of drag on and drag on and drag on. Okay, there's a few problems with the game, and there's also that sort of danger that the structure may collapse if you're not too careful. So there is that to bear in mind. But overall, we're going to give this 4 out of 5. We do like these 3-dimensional puzzles. It looks spectacular on the table. It's a talking point when people come around and say, well, bloody hell, what's that? And it's a solid game to boot. So that's the Climbers. Remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you next time.